I'm falling, and all I can think is, I should have known better. Not about the cliff. Not about the birthday surprise that turned into a confession. I should have known that when a man listens too well, remembers too much, never pushes, he's not healing. He's hunting. The wind tears at me. Los Angeles spreads below like a glittering map of every choice that led me here. 30 years of learning the wrong lessons. Of mistaking patience for safety. Of believing this time would be different. My daughter's face flashes through my mind. Those eyes that can't hear me scream but always knew when I was lying to myself. Then impact. But not the ground. Hands. Cold as death and twice as strong. A voice in the darkness, closer than my own heartbeat. You're not dying tonight. Not unless you choose to. And I realize falling was the easy part. I woke on my 30th birthday to fingers moving against my cheek. Soft, deliberate. The alphabet in motion. HAPPYBIRTHDAYMOM. I opened my eyes to find my daughter perched on the edge of my bed, already dressed for school, her dark hair still damp from the shower. 7 years old, and she could read me better than anyone who'd ever claimed to love me. She watched my face with that careful attention she developed early, the hyper-awareness of a child who couldn't rely on sound to tell her when danger was coming. I signed back. Thank you, baby. You didn't have to wake me. You were having a bad dream. Her small hands moved precisely. Your face looked scared. I'd been dreaming about him again. Not Theo, the one before him. Or maybe the one before that. They blurred together after a while, those men who'd started gentle and ended with their hands around some part of me they wanted to control. Different faces, same script. I'd promised myself, after the last one, that I was done. No more rescuing broken men. No more mistaking intensity for intimacy. Then Theo happened. I'm fine, I signed, sitting up and pulling her into a hug. She smelled like the strawberry shampoo we'd bought together last week, the one she'd chosen because the bottle had tactile ridges she could feel. Go get your backpack. I'll make breakfast. Our apartment was small, a one-bedroom in Los Feliz that ate most of my paycheck from the community center where I taught ASL classes. My daughter got the bedroom. I turned the living room into a space that functioned as bedroom, office, and everything else. The walls needed painting and the carpet had stains I'd stopped trying to remove, but it was ours. Safe. No one had keys but us. That was what I told myself, anyway. I made scrambled eggs and toast while my daughter organized her homework at the kitchen table. She was meticulous, color-coding her folders, checking that every assignment was complete. I recognized the behavior. The need to control what she could when so much felt uncertain. I'd been the same way at her age, though for different reasons. My phone buzzed. A text from Theo. Happy birthday, beautiful. Tonight is going to be perfect. I promise. I should have felt excited. Anticipation, butterflies, all those things you're supposed to feel when someone you're dating plans a surprise. Instead, my stomach tightened with something I couldn't name. Something that felt like my daughter's careful vigilance or the way I'd learned to sleep with one ear always listening. Stop it. He's not like the others. He's patient. He listens. He's good with your daughter. And he was. Over the past year, Theo had been everything I'd convinced myself didn't exist. He remembered that I took my coffee black, that I hated surprises except when they involved books, that my daughter's favorite color was purple. He never pushed for more than I was ready to give. He respected my boundaries. He made me feel safe. So, why did I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop? I drove my daughter to school, a charter program with resources for deaf students that was 30 minutes from our apartment, but worth every mile. She kissed my cheek before running toward the entrance, backpack bouncing, completely unaware that she was the only reason I was still standing. The only reason I'd survived my 20s. Work was busy enough to keep my mind occupied. I taught 4 ASL classes at the community center, mostly to parents of deaf children who were just learning to communicate in ways beyond failed speech therapy and frustration. I loved the work, the moment when a mother's hands finally formed the signs her child had been trying to teach her, the relief in a father's face when he realized he could still connect with his son. But today, I kept checking my phone. Kept reading Theo's message and trying to identify what bothered me about it. Tonight is going to be perfect. I promise. When had he ever promised me perfect before? Theo was careful with his words. Thoughtful. He didn't make grand declarations. That was part of what I'd liked about him. The steadiness. The lack of performance. Lena, my coworker, and the closest thing I had to a friend besides my daughter, caught me staring at my phone during lunch break. Birthday boy got you distracted? She sipped her tea, eyebrows raised. He planned something for tonight. Won't tell me what. That's romantic. I know. It should feel romantic. I set the phone down. Does it ever bother you when someone remembers every single thing you tell them? Like every detail? Lena frowned. That's called being attentive, Alicia.
Right.
Attentive. I picked at my salad. Theo remembers things I don't even remember telling him. Like last week, he brought me this specific brand of tea I mentioned once 6 months ago. I couldn't even remember the name of it. So he has a good memory and pays attention. Most women would kill for that. Most women hadn't spent their 20s learning that attention could be surveillance, that remembering could be cataloging, that patience could be strategy. I finished my classes and picked up my daughter from her after-school program. We went home, and I helped her with homework while trying not to watch the clock. Theo was picking me up at 7. He'd arranged for Lena to watch my daughter overnight, something that had taken weeks of careful planning because I didn't trust easily, and neither did my kid. At 6:30, I showered and changed into the dress Theo had bought me last month. Dark blue, fitted but not tight, appropriate for wherever he was taking me. He had good taste. Everything he did was thoughtful, measured, designed to make me feel cherished without being overwhelming. My daughter watched me apply makeup, signing questions. Where is Theo taking you? Will you be home for breakfast? Can I call Lena if I get scared? Lena's number is on the fridge. I'll have my phone all night. I love you. I love you too. She paused, her small face serious. Mom, are you happy? The question stopped me. Was I happy? I was stable, safe, making enough to keep us fed and housed. Teaching work I believed in. Dating someone who treated me well. I'm getting there, I signed honestly. Are you happy? She considered this with the gravity of someone much older. I'm happy when you're not scared anymore. Children who grow up in chaos learn to read fear like a language. My daughter had been fluent since birth. Lena arrived at 10 to 7, armed with board games and popcorn. My daughter hugged me goodbye, and I made myself leave without the usual triple check of locks and windows and emergency contacts. Theo pulled up exactly at 7 in his silver Camry. Not flashy, not cheap. Practical. He got out to open my door, smiling that smile that had made me think maybe, finally, I'd chosen right. You look beautiful, he said. Thank you. Are you going to tell me where we're going? Not yet, but I think you'll like it. We drove through Los Angeles as the sun set, turning the city gold and amber. Theo made easy conversation, asking about my day, telling me about a project at work, never pushing when I gave short answers. The silence between topics felt comfortable, natural, except we were heading toward the hills, toward Griffith Park, toward the cliffs that overlooked the city with the Hollywood sign looming like a promise or a threat depending on who you asked. I didn't know there were restaurants up here, I said carefully. There aren't. I wanted to show you something first. The view at sunset. I thought you'd appreciate it. My hands felt cold despite the warm evening. Theo, I'm not really a heights person. We won't get close to the edge. I promise. I just thought, it's your 30th birthday. A milestone. I wanted it to be memorable. Memorable. The word sat wrong in my mouth. He parked in a small lot near the trails. We walked toward a viewpoint I'd seen in movies but never visited in person. Los Angeles spread below us like a circuit board, lights beginning to flicker on as dusk deepened. The Hollywood sign loomed to our left, each letter tall enough to house my entire apartment. It's beautiful, I said, because it was. Because I wanted this moment to be what he'd intended. Romance. Significance. The beginning of something rather than the end. Theo took my hand. His palm was warm, his grip firm but not controlling. I've been thinking about this moment for a long time. How to make it right. What to say. My heart kicked. This was a proposal. It had to be. The milestone birthday, the romantic location, the careful build-up. I should have been thrilled. Should have been certain. Instead, every survival instinct I developed over 30 years started screaming. Alicia. Theo turned to face me fully, his expression tender, almost loving. I need to tell you something. And I need you to understand how special you are. Okay. My voice came out smaller than I wanted. You're number 150. The words didn't make sense. Number? What? 150. Do you know how long I've been waiting for that number? How much it means? And then his face changed. Not dramatically. Not like a mask falling away. Just a subtle shift. The softness becoming calculation. The tenderness becoming satisfaction. I've been doing this for a long time, he continued, his voice still gentle, still patient. Since I was 19. The first one was almost an accident. She was turning 30, and I realized I could feel something in that moment, that transition from hope into resignation. From believing life still held possibilities to accepting it never would. My body went numb. This wasn't happening. This couldn't be happening. After that, it became intentional. Every 5 years or so. Always women on their 30th birthday. Always women who'd been hurt before, who wanted to believe they'd finally found someone safe. He smiled. Women like you. Theo. I've been planning this for a year. From the moment I saw you at that coffee shop, teaching that mother how to sign with her daughter. You looked so tired, Alicia. So worn down. So desperate to believe you still had time to get it right. He reached up and touched my face with shocking gentleness. You trusted me. You let me meet your daughter. You told me about every man who'd hurt you, every red flag you'd missed. You gave me the exact blueprint of how to make you feel safe. I tried to step back. He held my hand tighter. The others were practice. But you're the milestone. Number 150. I've been planning how to mark it. Something special. Something you'll take with you into the dark. Let go of me. My voice shook. In a minute. I want you to understand something first. He leaned closer. Everything was real for you. The patience, the attention, the way I made you feel seen. That's what makes this perfect. You believed me. Even now, part of you is wondering if this is some awful joke. If maybe I'm testing you somehow. He wasn't wrong. Even as terror flooded my system, part of my broken brain was trying to find a way this was anything except what it was. Your daughter. Theo's voice went softer. She's safe. I want you to know that. I don't hurt children. This was only ever about you. About this moment. Your 30th birthday. The cliff. The choice you think you're making, but never really had. Then he pushed. Not violently. Almost gently. His hands on my shoulders, one quick shove that sent me backward. My feet scrambled for purchase on ground that was no longer there. And I was falling. Time stretched like taffy. I watched Theo's face recede, satisfied, calm, already turning away to walk back down the trail. I watched the Hollywood sign tilt sideways as I tumbled. I watched Los Angeles spread below me. Every light a life I'd never live. Every street a path I'd never take. My daughter. Oh God, my daughter. What would this do to her? Who would raise her? Who would make sure she knew she was loved? The wind screamed past me. Or maybe that was me screaming. I couldn't tell anymore. I'm sorry, I thought. Baby, I'm so sorry I brought him near you. I'm sorry I didn't trust myself. I'm sorry you'll have to be the one who's strong enough to survive this. Then, impact. But not the rocks. Not the ground. Not the death I'd been falling toward. Hands. Cold as stone and impossibly strong. Catching me mid-fall like I weighed nothing. Like gravity was a suggestion rather than a law. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't process. My body expected obliteration and got suspension instead. A voice, close enough that I felt breath against my ear despite the impossible situation of being held in midair by something that shouldn't exist. You're not dying tonight. Not unless you choose to. Darkness tastes like copper and stone. Like the inside of my mouth is full of pennies and I'm breathing underwater. I try to catalog the sensations because cataloging is what you do when you can't control anything else. My daughter taught me that. The cold comes from below, radiating through whatever I'm lying on. Rock. Dirt. The ground beneath the cliff, but somehow not the impact I'd been falling toward. The hands that caught me are still there. Not holding me anymore, just present. Close enough that I can sense them in the dark. I should be dead. The thought arrives with strange calm, like a fact I'm reading rather than experiencing. My body knows it's sending pain signals that spike and fade in waves that don't make sense. Something's broken inside me. Multiple somethings. I can feel blood pooling somewhere it shouldn't be. Taste it in the back of my throat. You're dying. The voice from before. Male, low, with an accent I can't place. You have about 4 minutes before the internal bleeding makes the decision for you. I try to speak. My lips won't move right. Don't. He sounds closer now. Talking will speed it up. Just listen. Through the darkness, I hear Los Angeles. The hum of traffic so far above us it sounds like the ocean. A helicopter cutting through the distance. The city I lived in for 30 years, suddenly remote as another planet. I can change what's happening to you. Stop the dying. But you need to understand what you're choosing, and we don't have time for me to make it sound gentle. My eyes adjust enough to make out shapes. We're beneath an overhang, hidden in the shadows under the cliff where I should have shattered. He's crouched beside me, tall, even folded down, dark hair, features I can't quite focus on except for his eyes. They catch what little light exists down here and throw it back wrong. Not reflecting. Generating. My name is Jake Salvador. What I am, what I can make you, people have different words for it. Vampire is the one you'll recognize, though it's not entirely accurate. What matters is this. I can stop you from dying. The cost is everything familiar. Your body, your senses, your relationship with time and hunger, and what it means to be human. You won't age. You won't die easily. You'll need blood to survive. He pauses, watching my face. Checking if I'm still conscious, maybe. Still capable of choice. I don't offer this lightly. Most people who fall from where you fell don't get options. But I was here because I knew what was about to happen. I've been tracking the man who pushed you for 3 months. He's killed 149 women before you, all on their 30th birthdays, all by making them trust him first. Theo. The name surfaces through the pain. Theo, who'd looked satisfied as he pushed me, who'd called me number 150 like I was an achievement instead of a person. I was too late to stop him pushing you. But I can stop you from being another number in his count. Jake leans closer. Here's what I need you to understand. This isn't a gift. This is survival. Hard, complicated survival. You'll live, but you'll spend the rest of your existence learning how to live with what you become. Your daughter. My daughter. Her face slams into me with force that makes the physical pain irrelevant. 7 years old. Deaf. Already too aware that the world is dangerous and her mother is fragile. What happens to her if I die? Who makes sure she knows sign language for love and safety, and you are not too much? Your daughter will still have a mother, but that mother will be different. You'll have to hide parts of yourself. Learn to exist in 2 worlds. It's not easy, and anyone who tells you transformation is beautiful is lying. It's violent, and it costs, and there's no going back. Through the pain, I feel something else. A question forming that isn't about survival, but about why. Why is this stranger offering me this choice? What does he get from saving someone who is supposed to die? You're wondering what I want from you. Jake sits back slightly. The truth? I see someone who's been surviving impossible situations her entire life. You read people because you had to. You're hyper-aware because danger taught you. Those aren't weaknesses. They're skills most vampires take decades to develop. You've been training for this your whole life without knowing it. He's not wrong. I've been reading micro-expressions since I was old enough to know that the space between "I love you" and "I own you" could be measured in the angle of a smile. I learned to catalog exit routes and assess threats and make myself small enough to survive. Not because I was smart, because I had to be. But more than that, his voice drops. I recognize what it looks like when someone refuses to let the world break them. You're bleeding out under a cliff, and you're thinking about your daughter. Not revenge, not rage. Just love. That's rare. That's worth saving. The pain intensifies. Time running out. Decision required. If I die, Theo wins. I've become a statistic. A number. My daughter inherits a story about a mother who chose wrong one last time, who couldn't protect herself, who left her alone in a world that already asked too much of a child who couldn't hear danger coming. If I live, if I become whatever Jake is offering, I'm choosing uncertainty. The unknown. A transformation that sounds like every warning I've ever received about deals that seem too good to be true. But here's what I know about uncertainty. I've survived it before. I've taken chances on men who claimed to be safe and learned to rebuild when they weren't. I've worked 3 jobs to keep my daughter fed. I've learned an entirely new language just so we could communicate. Uncertainty isn't new. Uncertainty is just life, without the pretty lies. And I refuse to let him win. Refuse to let Theo Robbins look at the news tomorrow and feel satisfied. Refuse to become another woman who wasn't smart enough, wasn't careful enough, wasn't enough. Do it. My voice barely works. Whatever it is, just do it. Jake doesn't ask if I'm sure. Doesn't give me time to second guess. He just moves, faster than should be possible, and I feel his hand behind my head, cradling it with unexpected gentleness. This is going to hurt, he says. More than anything you've felt before. But I'll stay with you. You won't be alone in it. Then his other hand is at his wrist, and I smell blood, sharp and wrong and somehow compelling in a way that makes my stomach turn. He presses the wound to my mouth. Drink. I do. Because I've already chosen. Because my daughter's face is burned into my retinas and Theo's satisfied smile is gasoline I want to set fire to. The blood hits my tongue, and everything inverts. What was pain becomes heat. What was cold becomes pressure. My body recognizes something it shouldn't. Recognizes that this blood is answer to a question I didn't know I was asking. Then the agony starts. It's not like breaking. It's like being unmade and reassembled wrong. Every cell remembering it was supposed to die and fighting the reality that it's doing something else instead. My bones feel like they're splintering and reforming. My heart stutters, stops, starts again with a rhythm that sounds like drums in my ears. I try to scream. Jake's hand covers my mouth, muffling the sound. I know, he says. His voice is the only anchor in the chaos. I know it's too much. But you're already halfway through. Your body knows what to do now. Let it. I want to tell him I can't. That this was a mistake. That I changed my mind. But my body isn't listening to me anymore. It's busy dying and living simultaneously, torn between what I was and what he's making me become. Time stops meaning anything. Could be minutes. Could be hours. Just wave after wave of transformation that feels like being turned inside out while staying conscious through every second. Then, stillness. My heart beating but different. Slower. More deliberate. My lungs expanding with air that suddenly carries 1,000 scents I never noticed before. My eyes opening to darkness that isn't dark anymore. I can see Jake's face clearly now. Sharp features, eyes that are amber and old and too knowing. I can see the texture of the stone above us. Can count individual grains of dirt on the ground. Breathe, Jake says. Just breathe. Let your senses settle. But they won't settle. Everything is too much. I can hear heartbeats, mine, his, something small scurrying in the rocks nearby. Can smell blood everywhere. His, mine. The copper-sweet scent of it coating my throat. Can taste it still, foreign and familiar at once. What did you do to me? My voice sounds different. Clearer. Wrong. I kept you alive. Jake sits back on his heels, giving me space. What you do with that life, that's up to you now. I push myself up. My body moves different, stronger, more responsive. Like I've been walking through water my whole life and only just stepped onto dry land. The hunger hits me then. Not for food. For something else. something living and warm and pumping. The need is visceral, undeniable, terrifying in its intensity. Jake sees it in my face. That's the hardest part. The hunger. It takes time to learn control. But you will learn. I'll teach you. My daughter. The words come out desperate. I need to see her. I need to. You will. But not tonight. Tonight you need to understand what you are now. What you need. How to feed without losing yourself. He stands, offering his hand. You chose this, Alicia. You chose to survive. Now let me teach you how. I take his hand. His grip is solid, certain. He pulls me to my feet, and I don't stumble despite the fact that I should be dead. Despite the fact that everything I was is now something else. Above us, Los Angeles glitters like it always has. Oblivious. Unchanged. But I'm different now. And there's no going back to the woman who fell from that cliff. You're still you, Jake says quietly, as if reading my mind. Just more. I want to believe him. Want to think that whoever I am now still contains the mother who braids her daughter's hair and signs bedtime stories in the dark. But as the hunger curls through me like smoke, I'm not sure where the line is anymore between survival and becoming the very thing I've spent my life learning to recognize. I wake to the smell of old wood and something else. Incense, maybe, or just the particular scent of a place that's existed longer than it should. The bed beneath me is too soft, the sheets too fine. Nothing like the threadbare cotton I've slept on for years, stretched thin by too many washings and not enough money for replacements. For one blissful second, I forget. Then my senses slam into me like a freight train. I can hear everything. A clock ticking 3 rooms away. Traffic on a street that must be miles distant. Conversations in Spanish drifting through walls that should be soundproof. Heartbeats, so many heartbeats, a percussion that makes my own pulse quicken in response. And underneath it all, hunger. It's worse when you first wake. Jake's voice comes from the doorway. I hadn't heard him approach, which should be impossible given my new hearing. Your body's still learning to filter input. Give it time. I sit up, and the room tilts before stabilizing. We're somewhere that feels deliberately removed from the world. High ceilings with exposed beams, walls lined with books that look older than California itself, windows covered with blackout curtains that leak no light. Beautiful in a way that whispers money, but old money. The kind that doesn't need to announce itself. Where am I? Safe. That's what matters right now. He moves into the room, and I notice he's changed clothes, dark jeans, a plain shirt, looking more human than he did beneath the cliff. Except for the eyes. Those amber eyes that see too much. You've been unconscious for 18 hours. Your body needed time to complete the transformation. 18 hours. My daughter. I need to. Lena has her. I had someone reach out with a cover story. You were in an accident, hospitalized, recovering. Lena knows you're alive. Your daughter knows you're alive. He sits in a chair near the bed, giving me space. But you can't see her yet. Not until you learn control. The hunger twists sharper, as if responding to the mention of my child. I press my hands against my stomach, horrified. I would never. I know. But your body doesn't know that yet. Right now, you're running on instinct, and instinct doesn't care about love. It cares about survival. His voice is gentle but firm. We need to teach you to feed before you're around anyone you can't afford to hurt. So I learn. Over the next 2 days, Jake becomes my guide through a world I didn't know existed beneath the one I'd been living in. He takes me to a facility that feels like a veterinary clinic but isn't, a place where animal blood is ethically sourced and stored. The first time I drink from a bag of deer blood, I nearly vomit from shame and relief combined. It shouldn't work. Shouldn't satisfy this clawing need inside me. But it does. There's a hierarchy, Jake explains, watching me drain the second bag. Animal blood sustains us. Human blood makes us stronger, but it comes with complications. Most of us feed from willing donors, people who understand what we are and consent to the exchange. Some drink from blood banks. A few, the old ones with no ethics left, hunt. We don't tolerate that in my territory. His territory. I'm learning that means more than I understood. Jake isn't just old, he's ancient. An alpha vampire who controls the Western territories, which apparently extends from San Francisco to San Diego. There are other territories, other rulers, a whole political structure that's been operating in shadow for centuries. Why are you telling me this? I ask between feedings. Why not just send me back out with the basics and let me figure it out? Because you're not going back out until you understand what you're walking into. You're connected to me now, by blood, by the fact that I turned you. The court will want to meet you. Some will see you as an asset, others as a threat. You need to know which is which. Court. The word should sound archaic. Instead, it sounds like every political nightmare I've spent my life avoiding. On the third day, Jake takes me to a mirror. I've been avoiding them, afraid of what I'll see. But he's right. I need to look. The woman staring back at me is, and isn't me. Same face, same hair that needs a trim, same scar on my eyebrow from a childhood fall. But the eyes are different, brighter, more intense. And my skin has taken on a quality that's hard to define, not pale exactly, but luminous. Like I'm lit from within. You look healthy, Jake says. Stronger than you did before. Your daughter will notice. Everyone will notice. That's why you need a story that makes sense. We craft it together. I was in an accident. Hospitalized. The medication they gave me has side effects, sensitivity to light, changes in appetite, need for more sleep during the day. It's close enough to truth to be believable. But when Jake finally drives me home on the fourth day, terror replaces hunger as my primary emotion. My daughter is perceptive in ways most adults never master. She learned early that survival meant reading what people didn't say, catching the micro-expressions that revealed truth beneath performance. How am I supposed to hide this from someone who's been studying me her entire life? Lena opens the door, relief and concern warring on her face. Thank God. She's been so worried. Then, quieter. You look different. Are you okay? Still recovering. Where is she? Living room. She's been waiting by the window every afternoon. I walk through my own apartment like it belongs to someone else. For days ago, I was human. Now I'm returning to a life that doesn't fit anymore, trying to squeeze myself back into a space that's suddenly too small. My daughter is curled on the couch with a book, but the moment I enter, she looks up. Her eyes scan my face with that familiar intensity, cataloging every detail. I sign. Hi, baby. I'm so sorry I scared you. She sets the book down carefully. Stands. Walks toward me with measured steps. When she's close enough, she reaches up and touches my face, my cheek, my forehead, my chin, reading me through touch the way she always has. Then her hands move. You're different. Not a question. An observation. I try to smile. Try to sign back something reassuring. But she's still touching my face, still reading what I'm not saying. What happened to you? I kneel so where I level. Sign slowly, choosing words carefully. I almost died. Someone saved me. The medicine they gave me, it changed some things. But I'm still your mom. I'm still here. She studies my face for a long moment. Then, you smell different. You feel colder. Your eyes are brighter. Of course, she notices. Of course, she sees through every lie I'm trying to construct. I know it's strange, I sign. I'm still learning what it means. But I promise I'm still me. Still your mom. I still love you exactly the same. She's quiet, hands still. Then she signs something that breaks me. You survived again. That's what you do. I pull her into a hug, and she lets me, her small body familiar, even though everything else has changed. She smells like home. Strawberry shampoo and the lavender detergent we use, because it's cheap. She smells human in a way that makes the hunger stir, but underneath that is something stronger. Love. Recognition. The bond that's kept us both alive through impossible situations. Will you have to leave again? She asks against my shoulder. Sometimes. But I'll always come back. Always. She pulls back, signs. Promise? Promise. Over the next week, we establish new rhythms. I wake at dusk instead of dawn, claiming the medication makes me sleep during the day. I wear sunglasses indoors and out, blaming light sensitivity. I prepare her breakfast and help with homework in the early evening, then disappear after she's asleep to meet Jake for the work of learning what I've become. She accepts it with the resilience of someone who's already learned that life requires constant adaptation. She's 7 years old and more flexible than I'll ever be. But there are moments when I catch her watching me with that careful attention, and I know she's cataloging more than I want her to see. She knows I'm lying about something. She just doesn't know what yet. One evening, as I'm tucking her in, she signs, "Are you happy?" The question from my birthday. A lifetime ago. I think about it honestly. Am I happy? I'm alive. My daughter is safe. Theo is in custody. Jake made sure of that, pulling strings I don't want to examine too closely. I'm learning to control something I never wanted to become. I'm learning to be happy, I sign back. It's complicated, but I'm trying. She nods, satisfied with the truth of it. Then, I'm glad you didn't die. Me too, baby. Me too. After she sleeps, I stand in her doorway, watching her breathe. The hunger is there, it's always there, but it's manageable now. Controllable. I've learned that love is stronger than appetite, at least when it matters most. Jake is waiting outside, leaning against his car in the parking lot. He's taken to driving me places after dark, teaching me about the world I've entered. Tonight, we're supposed to meet others like me. Turned vampires who've learned to balance their old lives with their new existence. How is it, he asks as I approach. She knows I'm lying. She just doesn't know what about yet. She'll figure it out eventually. Children usually do. I know. I slide into the passenger seat. That's what terrifies me. We drive through Los Angeles, and I watch the city transform through new eyes. Every person on the sidewalk is a heartbeat. Every building contains lives I can suddenly sense in ways I never could before. The world is louder, brighter, more overwhelming than it ever was when I was human. But my daughter's face is burned into my memory, and her words echo. You survived again. That's what you do. She's right. Survival is what I've always done. This is just the most complicated version yet. And for the first time since the cliff, I think maybe, just maybe, I can learn to live with what I've become. Jake waits until we're 3 weeks into my transformation before he mentions the court. We're sitting in his sanctuary after a training session where I learned that I can hear heartbeats through walls and identify individual people by scent alone. Skills that should feel like superpowers but mostly just make me exhausted. They want to meet you, he says, and something in his tone makes my new instincts flare. Danger. The kind I've spent 30 years learning to recognize. Who's they? The court. The families who've held power in this territory for centuries. When I turned you, I didn't ask their permission. That was intentional. I knew they'd say no. But now that it's done, they need to acknowledge what you are. Who you belong to. The last phrase makes me bristle. I don't belong to anyone. I know. But they don't understand that yet. He leans forward, hands clasped. The court operates on old rules, Alicia. Hierarchies that predate this country. When an alpha turns someone, that person is considered their responsibility, their liability. Some of them will see you as proof that I'm getting weak, turning humans out of sentiment rather than strategy. And are you? Getting weak. His amber eyes hold mine. I'm making choices that don't fit their paradigm. That terrifies them more than weakness ever could. He spends the next hour explaining what I'm walking into. The Western territories are controlled by 5 major families, with Jake as the alpha who maintains balance between them. There's the Corvos line, old French aristocracy who fled revolution only to discover immortality. The Chun family from San Francisco, who've been vampires since the Tang dynasty. The Reyes clan from Los Angeles, turned during the Mission era. Each family has its own power base, its own agenda, its own opinion about whether humans should ever be transformed. Most vampires are born, not made, Jake explains. Bloodlines that go back centuries. Turning a human is rare, because it's complicated, they don't always survive the transformation, and even when they do, they're unstable. Unpredictable. You're an exception, but they don't know that yet. What makes me an exception? You survived your 20s. He says it simply, like it explains everything. You learn to read danger, to adapt to impossible situations, to find strength in fractures. Most humans who get turned are either desperate or naive. You're neither. You're something most of my kind spend decades learning to become, a survivor who hasn't lost her humanity in the process. The compliment sits uncomfortably. I don't feel exceptional. I feel like someone who's been faking competence her entire life and is about to be exposed. The night of the court presentation, Jake brings me clothes I'd never afford, a dress that's simple but elegant, dark enough to blend but structured enough to suggest strength. He teaches me how to stand, how to make eye contact without challenging, how to appear smaller than I am without actually diminishing myself. All skills I already have. I've been performing non-threatening competence since I was old enough to understand that men punish women for taking up too much space. Remember, Jake says as we drive to wherever this is happening, you're not there to prove yourself. You're there to be acknowledged. There's a difference. But when we walk into the building, some historic mansion in the hills that's been retrofitted for modern immortals, I understand immediately that acknowledgement isn't what anyone's offering. The court assembles in a room that looks like it belongs in a European castle. High ceilings, dark wood, tapestries that are probably worth more than every apartment I've ever lived in combined. And vampires. So many vampires. All of them old in that way that has nothing to do with physical appearance and everything to do with presence. They turn to look at us as we enter, and I feel their attention like weight. Assessing. Judging. Finding me wanting before I've even opened my mouth. Jake introduces me to them one by one, and I catalog details the way I've learned to catalog threats. Vivian Chen, elegant, ancient, studies me like I'm a specimen rather than a person. Gabriel Reyes, younger looking but with eyes that have seen centuries, polite but distant. And then Lucien Corvos. He's tall, silver-haired, beautiful in the way vampires are beautiful, perfect and cold and utterly inhuman. When Jake introduces us, Lucien doesn't offer his hand. Just looks at me with something that might be contempt or might be curiosity. I can't tell yet. So this is your newest project. His accent is French, refined, cutting. She looks half dead, Jake. Are you certain the transformation took properly? She's 3 weeks old. Give her time. Time is what we have in abundance. Competence is what we require immediately. Lucien circles me slowly, and every instinct I have screams run. But I've learned to stand still when predators circle. Learned that running triggers chase instincts. Tell me, child, why should we accept you into our world? The question is designed to expose inadequacy. I've been asked variations of it my entire life. Why should we hire you when you have a child? Why should we believe you'll stay when you've left so many relationships? Why should we trust your judgment when you've chosen so poorly before? I didn't ask to be accepted. I say carefully. I asked to live. Jake gave me that choice. What I do with it is between me and him.
No.
Lucien stops in front of me. What you do with it affects all of us. Your existence threatens the balance we've maintained for centuries. You're a liability we didn't agree to assume. Jake steps forward, but Lucien holds up a hand. Let her speak for herself. If she can't defend her own existence, she has no place among us. The room goes quiet. I can feel everyone waiting, watching to see if I'll fold under pressure the way they expect. But here's what they don't understand. I've been defending my existence since I was old enough to know that single mothers are judged by standards married women never face. I've stood in rooms full of people who wanted me to apologize for taking up space, for needing help, for being complicated rather than simple. I didn't choose this, I say, meeting Lucien's eyes. But I'm not apologizing for surviving. You want to know if I'm worth the transformation? I can't answer that. I don't know what I'm worth in your world. But I know I'm worth staying alive for my daughter. Worth learning to control what I've become. Worth not becoming another number in a serial killer's count. Something shifts in the room. I feel it more than see it, attention sharpening, reassessing. Lucien tilts his head. You read people well. That's unusual for someone so new. I've had to. It's how you survive when you're always smaller, always weaker, always one mistake away from disaster. Interesting. He glances at Jake. You didn't tell us she was perceptive. I told you she was a survivor. Perceptiveness is part of the package. Vivian Chin speaks for the first time, her voice musical and dangerous. The question isn't whether she's perceptive. It's whether she's loyal. Who does she serve, Jake? You? Herself? Her human obligations? All three, I answer before Jake can. I'm not choosing between them. My daughter needs a mother. Jake gave me a second chance. Your world is where I exist now. I'm not pretending those things don't create conflicts. But I'm also not pretending I can be something I'm not. Gabriel Reyes laughs, surprising everyone.
She's honest, at least.
That's more than most of us manage after centuries.
But Lucien isn't laughing.
Honesty without loyalty is just pretty words. I want proof that you deserve what Jake gave you. Proof that you're not a weakness waiting to be exploited. What kind of proof? Jake's voice has gone cold. Dangerous. A challenge. Let her demonstrate that she can function in our world. That she understands the stakes. That she's more than a human playing at immortality. Lucien smiles, and it's the kind of smile I've seen on men's faces right before they reveal they've been setting traps all along. 1 month. Prove your worth to this court, or face consequences that I'm certain Jake has been too kind to explain. Jake's hand finds my arm, steadying. Or restraining. I can't tell which. And if she succeeds, he asks. Then she's acknowledged as one of us. Protected by the same rules that protect any vampire in this territory. Lucien's eyes never leave mine. But understand this, child. Most who accept this challenge fail. And failure here isn't like human failure. There's no second chance. No walking away. I should be terrified. Should be asking Jake to get me out of this, to protect me the way he's protected me since the cliff. But instead, I think about Theo's face as he pushed me. Think about every man who thought I'd break under pressure, every situation I've survived that I wasn't supposed to survive. What's the challenge? I ask. Lucien's smile widens. We'll tell you when the time comes. First, we want to see if you're brave enough to accept without knowing. It's a trap. Obviously a trap. The kind where the smart move is to refuse, to walk away, to let Jake handle this through channels I don't understand. But I've never been good at choosing the smart move. I've always chosen survival instead. I accept. Jake's grip on my arm tightens. Alicia. I accept. I repeat, louder. Whatever the challenge is, I'll do it. Not because I owe you proof, but because I need to know what I'm capable of now. The court murmurs, surprised or pleased or calculating. I can't read all of them yet, but I'm learning. And as Lucien's smile shifts into something that might be respect, I realize Jake was right about one thing. Vampire politics aren't so different from human manipulation. They're just more honest about the fact that everyone's trying to destroy you. The news reaches me 3 days before the court challenge, delivered by Jake in the early evening while my daughter is still at school. He stands in my living room, this apartment that feels smaller every time he's in it, and tells me with careful neutrality, Theo Robbins was killed in prison yesterday. I'm holding a mug of coffee I can't drink anymore but still make out of habit. The ceramic feels fragile in my new grip. Breakable.
How?
An inmate recognized his name. His sister was victim number 43. The guards found Theo in the showers. They took their time getting there. I should feel something clean. Relief, maybe. Justice. Closure. Instead, what rises in me is complicated and ugly. Satisfaction mixed with emptiness. Vindication tangled with guilt that I'm glad he suffered. That I wanted him to suffer. I wanted to see him again. I hear myself say.
After.
I wanted him to see what I'd become. Wanted him to know he didn't break me. Jake moves closer, but doesn't touch me. He's learned I need space to process, especially when emotions run hot. He knew. The moment I pulled you back from that cliff, he knew. I made sure he saw before I let him run. You let him run? He needed to be arrested properly.
Tried.
His victims' families needed that closure even if you didn't get yours. He pauses. But yes, I let him see. Let him understand that you survived in a way he never anticipated. That his number 150 became something he couldn't count. The mug cracks in my hand. Coffee spills across my palm. Hot, but not painful. Not anymore. Jake takes the broken pieces from me. You don't owe him your grief, Alicia. You don't owe him your rage.
He's dead.
You're not. That's the only equation that matters. But it doesn't feel like enough. Doesn't feel like the ending I'd been carrying in my head, the confrontation where I'd be strong enough to face him, where I'd prove that survival was victory. Instead, he's just gone. Removed from the story by someone else's hand. My daughter comes home an hour later, and I push Theo into the box where I keep all the things I can't afford to process right now. She needs homework help and dinner, and a mother who isn't fracturing under the weight of complicated relief. That night, after she's asleep, I stand in her doorway and watch her breathe. 7 years old, and the only pure thing in my life. The only reason any of this matters. Jake finds me there. The challenge is tomorrow night. Are you ready?
No.
But I'm doing it anyway. The court reconvenes in the same mansion, but this time the room is arranged differently. A single chair in the center, surrounded by vampires seated in a semicircle like judges. Or executioners. I can't tell which yet. Lucien stands as I enter. The challenge is simple. You will answer our questions truthfully. We will determine whether your answers demonstrate the strength required for immortality. Deception will be detected. Evasion will be noted. Weakness will be addressed. Jake starts to follow me toward the chair, but Lucien raises a hand. The alpha stays at the perimeter. She defends herself, or she proves she cannot. I see the conflict in Jake's face, the desire to protect me warring with the knowledge that this is something I have to do alone. Finally, he steps back. But his eyes never leave mine, and there's something in them that feels like faith. I sit. The chair is uncomfortable, designed to be. The vampires lean forward, ancient attention focused entirely on me. Predators assessing prey. Vivian Chin speaks first, her voice melodious and sharp. Why do you deserve immortality? The question is designed to have no good answer. Claim worthiness, and I'm arrogant. Claim unworthiness, and I've proven their point. I don't know if I deserve it. I say carefully, but I chose it. There's a difference between deserving and choosing. Elaborate. This from Gabriel Reyes. Deserving implies I've earned something through virtue or action. I haven't. I was dying because a serial killer pushed me off a cliff. Jake offered me a choice, and I took it. Not because I deserved to live more than his other victims, but because I have a daughter who needs me, and I'm selfish enough to choose her need over some cosmic sense of fairness. Lucien leans forward. Selfish. An interesting admission. All survival is selfish. Anyone who tells you otherwise is lying or hasn't been desperate enough to understand the truth. And what can you offer this world? Vivian again. What value does a turned vampire with human obligations bring to centuries of carefully maintained order? This is the question designed to make me minimize myself. To apologize for taking up space. I've heard versions of it my entire life. I offer perspective you've forgotten. I remember what it's like to be human. The fear, the vulnerability, the constant awareness that I could be destroyed by things stronger than me. You've been immortal so long that you've forgotten what it costs to be breakable. I haven't. That's not an asset, an older vampire says from the back. That's a liability. Is it? I meet his eyes. When is the last time any of you successfully infiltrated human spaces without being noticed? When did you last understand what motivates humans beyond base survival? I can move through their world and yours. That's not weakness. That's flexibility. She makes a fair point. This from a vampire I haven't met yet, dark-skinned and sharp-featured. Adaptability has value. But Lucien isn't satisfied. How do you balance your human obligations with vampire existence? Your daughter will age.
Die.
You'll watch her grow old while you remain unchanged. That attachment is torture waiting to happen. The question lands like a blade between ribs. He's found the thing that keeps me awake during the day, the fear I can't name but can't escape. I don't know, I admit. I don't know how I'll survive watching her age. How I'll explain why I don't. How I'll handle her death when it comes. But I didn't become a vampire because I had good answers. I became one because the alternative was dying before she graduated second grade. That's not balance. That's denial. Maybe. But I've built a life on managing impossible situations. This is just one more. I lean forward, feeling the anger finally break through. You want to know if I can balance being a mother and being a vampire? I don't know. But I've already balanced being a mother and being broke. Being a mother and surviving toxic relationships. Being a mother while learning an entire new language just so we could communicate. Impossible is relative. Lucien stands, circling behind me. I force myself not to track his movement, not to show the fear that makes my new instincts scream. Final question, he says, his voice close to my ear. Do you even want this life? Or are you just too afraid to die? And there it is. The question designed to expose that I'm weak, that I'm running, that I chose immortality out of cowardice rather than strength. But I've spent 30 years having my motives questioned by people who wanted me to doubt myself. Boyfriends who said I only left because I was afraid of real intimacy. Employers who said I only asked for raises because I was greedy rather than desperate. A justice system that suggested I must have done something to deserve Ryan's stalking, Theo's manipulation. I'm done defending my choices to people who've already decided I'm inadequate. Both. I say clearly. I wanted to live, and I was afraid to die. Those things aren't mutually exclusive. Yes, I was terrified. Yes, I chose survival over some noble acceptance of fate. But you know what? Every vampire in this room made the same choice at some point. Either you were born to this, or you chose it when you were offered. Don't pretend your immortality is more righteous than mine just because you've had it longer. The room goes silent. I can feel the shock, the offense, the recalculation happening in real time. Then Lucien laughs. Actually laughs. You have spine after all.
Good.
He moves back to face me. Here's what I see. A woman who survived more in 30 years than many of us face in centuries. Who chose life knowing it would cost her everything familiar. Who refuses to apologize for wanting to watch her daughter grow up. He glances at the other vampires. She's not diplomatic. She's not deferential. She's certainly not what we're used to. But she's honest about her limitations and clear about her priorities. That's rare. So, she passes? Gabriel asks. She passes. Lucien extends his hand to me. Welcome to the court, Alicia Mittens. Try not to make us regret this. I shake his hand, and his grip is firm, testing. But I've learned to grip back without crushing. To meet strength without submitting to it. The court disperses, and Jake finally approaches. There's something in his face I haven't seen before, pride, maybe, or recognition of a kind I'm still learning to read. You didn't need me to save you, he says quietly. You saved yourself. I learned from the best. I'm shaking, adrenaline finally catching up. Did I really just lecture ancient vampires on survival? You did. And you're still standing. That's what matters. As we leave the mansion, I think about Theo. About the closure I wanted but didn't get. About the fact that he's dead, and I'm not. And maybe that has to be enough. And I think about my daughter, sleeping safely in our apartment, oblivious to the world I'm learning to navigate for her sake. I didn't choose this life. But I'm claiming it anyway. Not because I deserve it, but because I refuse to apologize for surviving. That's enough. It has to be. 6 months into immortality, I discover that survival isn't the same as living. It's close enough that I confused them for 30 years, but there's a difference I'm only now learning to recognize. My days have split into 2 lives that somehow exist in the same body. In the early evening, I'm mom. I help with math homework that's getting harder as my daughter advances past what I remember from elementary school. I cook dinner we both pretend I'm eating. I braid her hair before bed and sign stories in the lamplight. Fairy tales where the princess saves herself. Adventures where the hero is deaf and brilliant and brave. She's learned to read my new nature with the same precision she reads lips. When I'm hungry, she'll point to the door and sign go. I'm safe here. Come back when you're better. 8 years old now, and she's learned to accommodate immortality the way she accommodated deafness, as a fact of life that requires adaptation rather than mourning. After she sleeps, I become something else. I drive to Jake's sanctuary or the court or the safe houses where turned vampires gather. People like me who chose this rather than being born to it. We're the minority in this world, the ones who remember mortality and can't quite shed its weight. I've become their advocate, though I never intended it. I speak at court about the needs of the turned, about the resources required to help them balance human connections with vampire existence. Lucien calls me tedious but listens anyway. Vivian finds my proposals quaint but occasionally useful. Gabriel has become something like an ally, supporting changes that accommodate difference in a world built on ancient homogeneity. Jake says I'm building something that didn't exist before, a bridge between worlds that most vampires assume should remain separate. I think I'm just applying the only skill I've ever really had, figuring out how to survive in systems that weren't designed for people like me. Jake and I have become something I don't have words for yet. Not lovers, though there's attraction that hums under our interactions like electricity before a storm. Not friends, because friends don't share blood bonds and centuries-old political complications. Partners maybe. Two people who recognize each other's scars and choose not to look away. One night, after a particularly brutal court session where I defended a turned vampire facing exile for maintaining contact with his human family, Jake drives me home in that comfortable silence we've developed. You fought harder for him than you fight for yourself, he observes. That's because I understand what he'll lose. I'm living it. And yet you're still here. Still fighting. I watch Los Angeles scroll past the window. What choice do I have? Give up? Let them force separation between my identities until I'm fractured beyond repair? I turn to look at him. You've lived centuries. How many people have you watched die? How many losses have you survived that should have broken you? Something crosses his face. Old pain that even immortality hasn't healed. Too many to count. After a while, you learn to stop keeping track. The numbers become unbearable. But you're still here. Still trying to build something better than what you inherited. So are you. I've been doing it for months. You've been doing it for lifetimes. That's different. Is it? He pulls up outside my apartment. Time doesn't make loss easier, Alicia. It just gives you more practice carrying it. You've survived more endings in 30 years than some immortals face in centuries. That's not weakness. That's proof that survival isn't about how long you live. It's about what you do with the time you have. He's right, though I'm still learning to believe it. Inside, my daughter is awake despite the late hour, sitting at the kitchen table with books spread around her. When she sees me, her hands move rapidly. I learned something today. Want to see? Always. She pulls out a notebook, and I realize she's been studying. Not school subjects, but something else. Her hands form signs I recognize from Jake's world. Vampire sign language, a variant developed centuries ago to communicate silently during hunts or political negotiations. Where did you learn this? I ask, stunned. Jake's friend Ramona has been teaching me. She says if I'm going to grow up in two worlds, I should speak both languages. My daughter's face is proud. I want to understand your life, Mom. All of it. Not just the parts you think I can handle. I pull her into a hug, overwhelmed by the reality that she's not just accepting what I've become, she's choosing to enter this world with me. At 8 years old, she's braver than I'll ever be. I love you. I sign against her hair. More than anything in any world. I know. That's why you chose to stay. A month later, I asked Jake to take me back to the cliff. Not the place beneath where he caught me, but the top, where Theo pushed me, where my old life ended. My daughter is safe with Ramona, who's become something like an aunt, a turned vampire from the 1940s who understands what it means to balance mortality and immortality. Jake drives me to Griffith Park in the early evening, when the sun has just set and the city is caught between day and night. We hike to the viewpoint in silence. I can hear everything now, Hikers on distant trails, animals in the brush, the city humming below like a living organism. 6 months ago, this walk would have terrified me. Now it's just information. At the edge, I stop. The Hollywood sign looms to the left, exactly as it did that night. Los Angeles spreads below, every light a life continuing while mine fractured and reformed. Jake stays back, giving me space. "I'm here if you need me," he says quietly. "But you don't need me." He's right. I don't need him. But I choose his presence anyway, the same way I chose life over death, the same way I choose to be both mother and vampire rather than picking one identity and mourning the other. I step closer to the edge. Not close enough to fall, but close enough to remember. To acknowledge. Falling was the easy part. That moment of suspended terror, of life unspooling, of certain death approaching. That was simple. Horrible, but simple. Learning to live with what I became, that's the real work. Learning to feed without losing myself. To mother while hiding half my nature. To participate in vampire politics without forgetting I'm still human in the ways that matter. To watch my daughter age, knowing someday I'll bury her, and I'll have to find a way to survive that loss too. I stand at the edge now by choice, no longer afraid of falling because I've learned something they don't teach in therapy or support groups. Transformation isn't about erasing what broke you. It's about letting those fractures become something new. Light through cracks. Power through survival. There are others like me in this city. Women who were supposed to break, but became something sharper instead. Women who learned that endings can become beginnings, that the worst thing that ever happened to you doesn't have to be the last thing. We recognize each other now. We find each other. And we don't let go. Jake moves closer, standing beside me at the edge. Not touching, just present. Witnessing. "Do you regret it?" he asks. "Choosing this?" I think about my daughter learning vampire sign language. About the turned vampires who now have someone fighting for their right to maintain human connections. About Theo, dead in prison, never getting to see what I became. About standing here at this cliff, reclaiming ground that was supposed to be my ending. I regret that I had to choose it all. I say honestly. I regret Theo. Regret every moment I doubted myself, every red flag I ignored. But this? I gesture at myself, at the city, at the life I'm building from pieces of two worlds.
No.
I don't regret surviving. Good. He pauses. For what it's worth, I don't regret saving you. Even though I'm tedious at court sessions? Especially because you're tedious at court sessions. Someone needs to be. The wind picks up, and I let it move through me. Once, I would have stepped back, afraid of being too close to the edge. Now I understand that fear of falling was never really about the cliff. It was about the loss of control, the vulnerability, the certainty that I couldn't save myself. But I did save myself. With Jake's help, yes, but also through my own choice. Through 30 years of learning to survive what should have broken me. I'm not healed. The trauma doesn't vanish just because I've integrated it. I still wake sometimes in the middle of the day, heart racing, remembering Theo's satisfied smile as he pushed me. Still struggle with trusting my judgment after being so catastrophically wrong. But I'm also not broken. I'm mother and vampire, human memory and immortal future, trauma transformed into something that resembles power. I'm the woman who fell from this cliff and chose to come back different. And standing here now, wind in my hair and city spread below like possibility, I realize something fundamental. I'm not afraid anymore. Not of falling, not of failing, not of being too much or not enough. I've already survived the worst thing I could imagine. Everything else is just learning to fly. If this story felt like yours, if you heard yourself in these words, there are more. Women like us. Stories like this. But they slip away if you don't hold on to them. Don't let this be the last time you feel understood.